Hey, another day of painting has arrived. So this is then painting 2, session B, the second session. This is a smaller painting. And here it's still in the early stages as the previous one, where I'm just thickening up the texture and adding more color tone, purely with color and only linseed oil, no turpentine at this stage, because this is that stage when I'm building up the textures and the tones by using a nice oily base. So when the whole thing dries, it becomes quite sensuous and thick and lush as I build up the paints as they dry. And by putting in the linseed oil like that with the hue, I'm mixing again the paint on the actual canvas, so the subtleties move across and mix in with the paint underneath, and this creates a lovely, rich, colorful texture. So this is pretty much a build up, very subtle period of the painting, which will eventually, towards the end, once it's been through a couple of these sessions, it will really start making a difference in the complete richness of the picture itself, and all these little subtleties I can then play with and decide which ones I want to highlight or not. But it's important at this phase to really work into it and take my time. Like here, for instance, this is now brown with a bit of black in it and a lot of linseed oil. So we're going to create almost a sort of coffee stain and some harder, there you see how lovely it runs, and some harder lines to create some sort of structure and to try and think ahead on how, this painting is going to develop, but not kill it at this stage. Just work very loosely with it, and once this session dries again over another 2 weeks, I'll have another session to work with. So this is basically just a very enjoyable time, but one has to think quite carefully in this phase, because what I put down here, I want everything to stay and to show towards the end, but it has to be quite considered, and all these little areas are eventually going to become a lot more detailed. And this is now, for instance, it needs more darks here, more structural areas, and yeah, it's very instinctive as usual, but not too much linear work at this stage. It's more tonal, more color, building up a nice rich underpainting. And that little piece went out of focus. Building up a rich underpainting with the linseed oil and the colors and the mixing of the colors and the highlights. Like there, for instance, that white came out a little bit too much, and that black wasn't actually supposed to be in there. But it doesn't really matter. A bit with the clothing, push it out. And those little accidents are always quite handy towards the end, ironically. And here I'm basically just putting a whole lot of linseed oil on the dry paint, and now just pushing in some darks to create a little bit more of bit more depth in this more quiet sort of area where I'm going to have this starry feel towards the end, and splashing on some nice thick whites here, messing around with it a little bit. And that's basically it. Now, this is now to the end of the session. These paintings can be seen from all angles, so I'm giving from this side, that side, all 4 different angles, depending on how one wants to hang them in their house eventually, because they are really don't have to be seen from one particular angle. Anyway, I'll let this guy dry and then get back to it again once it's dry with some more finer work. And that's pretty much it for today's little painting. Thank you.